Williamson, Malloy and Matthews.
And they're racing too and getting off the line like a bullet is Colin Bond, and Jones follows him too. They're trying to head Jim Richards as they head up the hill, and Steve Masterton pulls another gear on the 2WS Commodore, and Zappo, he goes through as they head up to the hill for the first time.
And Francevic is missing.
Robbie Francevic not making the grid. So Masterton now leads. Second spot held by Colin Bond, who will look for a little nip and tuck there. Then the two BMWs, and one with problems is Alan Jones already as he sits in behind Lowe as they come down the back straightaway. But Masterton will lead. Boy, isn't he quick off the line.
Disappointment for Alan Jones. Really wanted to leave a big impression here today in his farewell appearance at Amaroo Park, but the car just doesn't seem to be running the way he'd want.
Well, he's already got past Longhurst, so that leads Masterton leading. Bond in second. Third is Richards, followed by Crichton. Then Peter Williamson, Gary Wilmington and Alan Jones. They slide out of the bottom turn, and Richards with the tail almost on the wall that time. The distance of this one, 10 laps. They're across the strike. 1 completed, 9 to run. Up the hill, and Masterton giving the V8 Commodore its head. And he leads from Colin Bond in 26. And Richards now honing in on the tail of the Ignis Alpha.
I suppose it's unfair to say Jim Richards was a bit slow off the mark. Masterton just dragged them all off the grid to get to the lead. Richards has been known to come from behind before. In fact, he does it pretty often. Usually manages to get himself shuffled back to third or fourth spot off the grid in most of his races. But when the whips are cracking, you'll find Jimmy's going to be up near the front again. In fact, he's not that far from it right now.
Through Honda Corner on the run down now to the Lake Corner. Steve Masterton and the Masterton Homes 2WS V8 Commodore leads. Richards closing in on Bond, and Bond is right here on the inside of the race leader.
News has just come through, Mike, that Masterton has a 1-minute penalty for jumping the start.
Goodness me, so really it's Bond pursued by Richards then in the race.
Well, rain it paused. But Steve Masterton still leads them up the hill. I don't think Jim Richards might be aware of that at this stage. He is just concentrating more on disposing of Colin Bond in the Network Alpha number 26 car. But despite the problem of the minute penalty, it certainly looked quick off the line, Bond's car, and certainly Alan Jones, but Mr. Ever-Present in touring car racing, Jim Richards, has managed to pick up that deficit, and he's sitting right in there behind Colin Bond as they come down to Honda Corner again.
Bond is using a brand new set of Avon experimental tyres this weekend, which feature carbon fibre construction, that wonderful material that's popping up in all forms of sport at the moment, and it seems to be making great inroads as far as the performance of the Alpha is concerned.
We'll have a look at the gaps back when we get a chance to see how Jones is faring when we get a clearer picture. There is Masterton sideways. There go the two BMWs, and I think you'll find that Jones is on the inside of Williamson and putting the pressure on him fairly and squarely.
Tell you who else is in there too. It's Neil Lowe in Kent Bagent's BMW, the number 3 car. He's started to make a charge from the rear of the field.
There's Bagent's in New Zealand this weekend, and Neil Lowe, who's been working on the car in the Australian Touring Car Championship, has got a run this weekend, the first run since the Wellington Street Race.
Look at this. Colin Bond on the inside takes Masterton. Richards, we'll see if he can squeeze. He tried to. There just wasn't enough room. And we take race cam now from Steve Masterton's car. They come out of Honda Corner, and just look at that nimble little Alpha with the Ignis sign on the back of it. Just skip away.
Bondy must think it's Christmas. Here he is up front.
Look out for Jim Richards on the inside of Masterton.
Oops!
He got him.
He says, gotcha. And Masterton says, yeah, well, two can play at that. We'll see who's got the third gotcha here. Oh, it's still Richards. They come out of the bottom corner and back across the strike again. Jones with problems with the 27 car. We'll deal with that later. It's slowing down and looks like it's out of the event.
Yes, he's just going down through the Lake Corner and doing it very slowly, Mike. I think we've seen the Alan Jones for this race.
Well, the scrap still continues, and Jim Richards with the number 26 Alpha in front of him, Colin Bond at the wheel. Keeping in mind the drivers using the Better Brake Series here today at Amaroo Park. There's a full wind-up for the round of the Australian Touring Car Championship that will occur here in July. And Peter Brock and a few of the other V8 Commodore drivers who don't show any sort of affection for Amaroo Park might pay the penalty for not doing a meeting here before the touring car title. Because if one guy has got this place dialed in, it's Jim Richards. And this fella, Colin Bond, 26.
Bond leads, Richards second. Masterton third, but he got a 1-minute penalty against him. Then Neville Crichton in the second of the JPS BMW cars. And then Neil Lowe, he had another BMW car 3, and Gary Wilmington, the big Jag, starting to pick up a bit of ground now as the race unwinds.
Enrico Zanarini from Alpha would be delighted to see Bondi leading the BMW across the top of the hill. As we mentioned before, Jones' last outing in the touring car, in the number 27 car, that goes to Colin Bond, who will take up the machine for the remaining rounds of the touring car title.
I'm sure that they'll get the Jones car up and running again, and we'll see him in action in events later on the program here this afternoon.
To the left-hander they come at Honda, heat 2 of Bond. Locked a brake up, and he could pay very, very dearly for that. Yep. Because Gentleman Jim says, gotcha, and takes him on the outside. So Jim Richards in the 62 car takes the lead away from Colin Bond. That's all it needed, was one brake lock-up, and Richards was through for the lead.
Incidentally, Colin Bond will go into the 27 car that Alan Jones has been campaigning through the year, and the car that Colin is currently in has been sold to rally expert Greg Carr, who will use it in the Australian Rally Championships.
It's good to see Bond will get the 27 car for the remaining rounds. He's doing a pretty good job, and he has done a tremendous job for Alpha throughout the Touring Car Championship Series. And don't underwrite this man being a potential winner here for the round of the car title.
Get another look at this stills cameraman down here, and they come through this corner. I can't believe the guy standing where he is. Look at him.
Well, he's on the top of the earth bank there, but
I know, but if they come straight ahead, he'd have to move pretty quickly.
These legs, we don't know about these rowdy houses. To the bottom turn, Jimmy Richards at 62 will lead along the short straight to Wonderlick Corner. He actually hasn't drafted Bond off by too much. Masterton still holding there for third as they head up Itchapave Hill again.
Notice again, Mike, the back of the Commodore looking very taily like it did last weekend at Service Paradise. And that seems to be the problem with the car at the moment. It's getting away brilliantly, but as soon as it hits the tyres up, backwards it goes.
Mind you, the BMWs are holding a very strong hand in this race. Jimmy Richards leading at the moment in the JPS car. Neil Lowe in Kent Bajan's BMW is up in fourth place, and Tony Longhurst BMW 323 also not far off the place getters.
Jimmy Richards from Honda Corner coming down to pass one of the Capris. Could have been Phil Parsons. And Bond manages to nobble Parsons as well. Along the short straight now to Wonderlick Corner.
Richards, Bond, Masterton, then Crichton, Neil Lowe, Gary Wilmington in the Jag, and then Tony Longhurst and Peter Williamson. That's the order.
2 laps remain in the second heat, the 10-lapper of the Better Break Series here today, round 2 at Amaroo Park. Bondi crouched over the wheel, throwing the car around.
Just starting to lose touch with Richards a bit.
Richards, meantime, increasing that gap to Mazda Corner. A run downhill now to the next of the left-handers, which of course is Honda.
What a season it's been for Jim Richards. 3 wins from 3 starts, the first round here of the Better Break Series, and of course his domination of the Australian Touring Car Championship is well known to all of you out there, I'm quite sure. Great to see Jim up there, because for years and years in Australian motorsport he's been knocking on the door, and now the opportunities have come his way. 1 lap remaining for Richards, car 62. Colin Bond closes the gap just ever so slightly as they head up the hill for the last time.
Not only have the opportunities come his way, but he knew just when to pick up and run with it too. And he's got the equipment to do it this year.
Look at Bondi throwing the little 2.5 litre V6 alloy engined Alpha across the top of the hill, throwing out absolutely everything that he can at this flying fuel-injected 6-cylinder BMW.
To Mazda Corner again, and the run down to the left-hander at Honda. Jimmy Richards, 62, the black BMW, leads out of the turn. Bond probably closer now than he's been for the last lap or so. Jim just cooling it a little bit. Bond closes up though, that's all the incentive he wants. Along the short straight to Wonderlick Corner. And as they approach the final turn, 62, leader in the touring car title, looking good for the Better Breaks. Jimmy Richards leads Colin Bond across the line. And actually third across the line is going to be Steve Masterton in number 2, but we'll allow the officials to work out who was third. Let's recap the placings for you.